I believe that we are in a very serious downturn. I think that the Trump era has brought into existence a whole new cruelty that we have not seen in America in a long time.
You're watching the Spotlight Network, starring Hollywood's newsman,
And if you were just
Logan
joining
Crawford.
investigators, they now believe a single member.
He works with TV and film legends. And now, Logan's shining the spotlight on the world's top emerging authors and creators. This is Spotlight with Logan Crawford, streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV.
I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're shining a light on the life and legacy of one of America's most influential civil rights leaders. The name of the book, I Will Fear No Evil. It is written by a terrific author and a wonderful leader. His name is John Jacob. He is the former president and CEO of the National Urban League. And in the book, he reflects on a lost opportunity in American history, when the nation could have invested in its future, but instead ignored the urgent call for equity and education. His powerful memoir traces his journey from segregated Houston to the national stage, offering insights that are as vital today as they were during the Reagan-Bush era. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. John, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Let's start out by talking about today, because I think yesterday brought us to today, and your fingers on the pulse of the nation right now. It is 2025. Donald Trump is president. There's obviously a lot of political turmoil in the world, particularly in America. People are questioning how far African Americans and other minorities have come in the struggle for civil rights. So what's your state of the union today?
I believe that we are in a very serious downturn. I think that the Trump era has brought into existence a whole new cruelty that we have not seen in America in a long time. I've been in this world for 90 years, and I lived through segregation, discrimination. I've lived through separation. I lived through American apartheid. I lived through the Reagan era, but the Reagan era was not as cruel as the Trump era. And what my book attempts to say is that we've been here before, and we can work our way through this even now. That Trump is just a megaphone for a bunch of folks who want to go back to where we used to be. But where we used to be is not where America should be. And therefore, it is incumbent upon us to look at things that we could have done in the past, that if we do now, we can remedy the conditions we find ourselves in.
Absolutely. You were very prominent your whole career, but especially during the Reagan-Bush era. You consider this an opportunity lost, that the nation didn't go ahead with certain plans to make inclusion and equity and education a priority. Talk to us about the opportunity lost there.
What we tried to do during my period in the 1980s with the Bush-Reagan era is to suggest to them that there was a strategy that we had already implemented successfully in rebuilding Western Europe. And that if we applied that premise right now in America, we could put everybody back to work. We could educate those that need education. We could provide skilled training to those who need it. And we would put people back to work paying taxes to America rather than taking arms from America. What we were attempting to say is that the Marshall Plan in Europe, that the America dedicated about 10% of its national budget, maybe 3% of its GNP to rebuilding Western Europe. If we took that same principle and applied it to rebuilding America, rebuilding its roads and bridges and airways and waterways and schools, we could put people back to work. We could train people. We could put people back in business, and we would have people paying taxes to the American government that would repay America for the investment that America was making in her own country and her own people. And I think part of the problem that we ran into is that too many people saw this as a black program. It was never a black program. We saw it as a program that would benefit America because to rebuild America roads, there were no black companies big enough to accomplish that. That those companies that would take on that responsibility, yes, would hire blacks, would train blacks, would put blacks into unions, but those were white companies. And white people would benefit from that program just like black people. Disproportionately, we were the ones living in poverty, but there were white people proportionally in numbers greater than black people also living in poverty. And we could address those problems if we dedicated ourselves to rebuilding America, just like we rebuilt Western Europe.
It's such a wonderful plan. It's been talked about, I think, in every presidential election that we're going to rebuild our roads, rebuild our infrastructure, rebuild our bridges, rebuild our trains. And every election it's promised, it never happens. And I think you're very, very right that we can't view issues such as these as white issues or black issues. They're American issues. And if it's making black America stronger, it's making white America stronger. It's making America stronger, right?
Absolutely. See,
Yeah.
the blind spot that America has had since 1619, when those slaves were dropped off in Jamesville, Virginia, we've never gotten beyond that. We have never gotten beyond seeing black folks as property, seeing black folks as unworthy. And what that fails to do is to view black folks as those who helped build America to bring America where America is today. And to downgrade a service to those people is downgrading America's future. That black folks are not going anyplace. And America needs all of her people educated, need all of our people employed, need all of our people bringing in income, need all of our people paying taxes. And that if America understood that and addressed that, we would be the shining country on the hill.
The one that Reagan talked about, the one that Reagan promised. And Mario Cuomo at the time, of course, said it was a tale of two cities. And in many ways, it is a tale of two cities. So many of the rules, regulations, particularly zoning laws, school zones, are all built around racist ideologies and racist systems to keep them out and us in, our buffer zone. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the first home that I bought in Washington, D.C., had a restrictive clause in it that it should never be sold or rented to a black person. It took the law to change that so that a black person could buy that house. And that what we need to understand is that national government stand as the bully pulpit for making America better. The problem with the Trump era is that the national government is failing to take on the responsibility of building America for all people rather than just for the rich, just for whites, just for the white American Christian. We need to look at America at what it is, what it has always been. It is an America of a multiracial society. And we have to look for ways to incorporate that racial society into all of America, to make America strong, to make America prosperous, to make America the country that it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about your upbringing. You grew up in segregated Houston. I'm sure that affected your life, in many ways, your opportunities, and in many ways, your views of the world and particularly the United States.
Indeed, I grew up in segregated Houston and I grew up poor. And I don't mean those kind of pools that I didn't know I was poor. I knew I was poor every day of my life. I had great parents, and I just wonder what life would have been like if they had had the opportunities that others around them had. My father worked every day, but my father gave his kids two things. He gave us a good name and he gave us character. And he said to us that if you live in my house, you got to be in school. If you're not in school, you got to have a job. If you get a girl pregnant, you're going to marry her. And if you go to jail, you're going to stay. You got the rules? Oh, by the way, he said, I may have never gone to college, but I know the difference between an A and a C. Don't bring me any C's. That's the way my father framed raising his children. So growing up in my day, generally the only boys who went to college were the good athletes. And they played sports to get a scholarship to college so they could get a degree and get a job because this was before the NFL and the NBA were taking in black athletes. Well, all I had to do was look in the mirror and I saw I was too small to play football, too short to play basketball. I wasn't the fastest guy on the track. And while I was a decent second baseman, it was the only position I could play because I didn't have a great arm. So I asked myself, what is it that you can do to get yourself into college? And I said to myself, the one thing I'm in control of is being smart. I'll just work at being smart. So I just worked at being smart. And in my day, kids liked you when you were smart. And their parents liked you when you were smart. And when I was in the 11th grade, getting ready to go into my last year of high school, an old white real estate entrepreneur by the name of Evan Edward Worthing died. But he left a scholarship trust fund for poor but bright black kids for $500,000. And when I saw the article in the paper, I said, I just got to college. I said, my challenge for the next 12 months are first, I got to stay alive.
Mhm.
And two, I got to practice acting surprised for when they call my name. And at commencement, when they called my name, I gave them an Academy Award performance. But I got my scholarship, and that's how I ended up going to college. And I have never forgotten that it was the generosity of a good white man who made it possible for me to launch my career. So my argument is not that white people are not good people. There are some who are good people. There are also some who are demons. But we concentrate on getting the good people to participate in this struggle to make America better for all people.
Wonderfully stated, wonderfully said. You were blessed with a good brain that you had the opportunity to get that scholarship. People who are less bright also deserve opportunities as well. I'm a big advocate that just like grammar school, just like high school, college should also be free for anyone who wants to attend and is able to maintain a grade point average of at least a C. I know your dad didn't like a C, but C sometimes got us by. So I agree with you there that education is the path out for anyone who is facing challenges, anyone who is impoverished. And again, it's not a black or white issue. It's an American issue. It's a human issue. Talk to us about the National Urban League and your tenure there.
Yes, I spent 29 years in the Urban League. And the great thing about the Urban League is that from its very founding, it was always an organization that built itself around a collectiveness of black and white people working together. It was an organization that had American industry involved in the beginning. The creation of the National Urban League in 1910 was by Ruth Standish Baldwin, a white woman who was the widow of a railroad magnate and a black PhD, the first PhD from Columbia University, uh, who came together to put this organization together. And they had always understood that America was dependent upon everybody, rich and poor, working together. And so we built this organization around a collectiveness of, of everybody coming together to build and work. That American industry had a role, that government had a role, that black folks had a role, that white folks had a role, and that it was the collectiveness that would make an organization like ours successful. And for since 1910, the Urban League has been operational in America in more than 100 cities, working in inner cities, working with people who were poor and disadvantaged, regardless of race, putting people back to work, getting people educated, getting housing for people, feeding people who needed to be fed. The Urban League has always been there saying um, it's opportunity, not arms, that we're looking for. It's integration for the betterment of all society. And we have survived because we had a collectiveness with all of America, not just Black America or white America. It was Black America and white America, and anybody who wanted to do good could be a part of this team.
It seems like it's very different than BLM is today. I don't even know if BLM is still an effective movement today. It kind of was very popular a few years ago. What do you make of BLM?
Well, I think certain Black Lives Matter has always been the the survival focus of Black folks, uh, and and what got misunderstood is one simple word that could have been added. They could have said Black Lives Matter too. That one simple word. It was not supposed to suggest that white lives don't matter. It was to elevate the fact that Black lives did matter also. And that simple word of Black Lives Matter too would have clarified the statement that was being made. But understand what Black Lives Matter really said to America, that don't ignore us. Understand that we are part of you. Understand that we have contributed to you. Understand that we have fought in every war that we have had in this country to make America safe. Understand that America was built on the backs of Black folks, just like those white folks who participated. And so, what Black Lives Matter is simply saying is that take off your blindfolders and appreciate the fact that we are contributing factors to the survival and the growth and the development of this nation. And that don't ignore us, recognize us, and appreciate the contributions that we have made.
I agree across the board. I think it did fill an important role. I think it would have been more inclusive if it was Black Lives Matter also or Black Lives Matter too. So there was some opportunity lost there for inclusion. But I think they did get their message out loud and clear that they won't be ignored and that Black Lives Matter,
That's correct.
particularly in what feels like a rash of cops killing unarmed Black people.
Yes.
Let me ask you this before we leave, just have about 2 more minutes. The name of your book is I Will Fear No Evil. Why did you entitle it that?
Well, we started out with another title that said everyone deserves a chance to make it on their own. But when I looked at the climate that we now find ourselves in, it occurred to me that we needed to make a statement to America and particularly to Black folks that Don't be intimidated by the environment we find ourselves in. We cannot fear what we are encountering. What we need to appreciate is that in the advocacy business, you don't just fight the fights that need to be, you don't just fight the fights you think you can win. You fight the fights that have to be fought. And so you cannot enter that fight with fear of losing. You enter the fight with fear, but fear of winning. And you wake up every day feeling that I may not win the fight today, but I will be in the fight every day. And so, what we are suggesting with this title is that I will fear no evil because I have you with me. I will fear no evil because there are good people who will join with us in this struggle. I will fear no evil because thou art with me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It is a powerful title. It is a powerful book. The name of the book, of course, is I Will Fear No Evil. It is a revealing and timely memoir from one of America's great civil rights voices, and we've been blessed to hear his eloquence today on the Spotlight Network. John, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time, sir, your insight and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.